John Sullivan wept hot tears as he pored over the photos and the report just handed to him by the private investigator. He now had ironclad proof that April, his wife of nearly 25 years, was cheating on him. At that moment, he had nothing to look forward to but darkness and loneliness. Divorce was the only option. There was just one problem. His wife was running for re-election to the House of Representatives, and she had garnered some very powerful and influential friends. One of them, in fact, was featured prominently in some of the photos he held. A lot of people were going to be damaged by this, and if he wasn't very careful, he could be one of them. He had suspected something was wrong for quite some time. Of course, her schedule kept her very busy, and she was always jetting off for one thing or another. If it wasn't a fundraiser, it was something else. A speech for a prominent civil rights group, a meeting with Hollywood celebrities, an interview on a national television program, or even a face-to-face with a foreign dignitary. He understood that was part of the territory, but there was something more. Her whole attitude towards him had changed over the last year. Initially, she was proud to show him off. He was, after all, a very successful businessman who started his financial consultation firm from scratch in his home office. Over the years, he had made millions. But lately, she had become dismissive of him, acting as though he was just a piece of furniture or a household servant. Nothing he did seemed to be quite good enough to suit her. It was great when he became wealthy enough to buy this large McMansion she just had to have, and it was great that he was able to put their 2 children through college. She never complained when he bought her the new Mercedes she just had to have. But now, she would simply walk in the door and hand him her jacket like he was the butler and expect him to wait on her hand and foot. And intimacy? Ha! Forget about it. When they were younger, they used to make love several times a week. Now it was maybe a couple of times a month, if that. Even then, she acted as though she was doing him a favor by spreading her legs and laying there like a dead fish until he finished. It all came to a head about 3 weeks ago at a fundraiser. As usual, she dressed nicely and gave him a perfunctory smile as he walked her to his car. He opened the door for her as he always did and drove to the event, listening to her constant string of complaints. When they arrived, she painted a smile for the cameras and acted like a loving wife. He wanted to puke. She introduced him to a few movers and shakers, then ordered him to get her drink while she chatted with her colleagues. Being the dutiful and considerate husband, he went to the bar and ordered the usual, beer for him and a gin and tonic for her. While he waited, 2 young men came to the bar, excited about something. He couldn't help but overhear their conversation. "You think she'll do it right here?" one man asked. "Oh, hell yeah," the other man said. "No way," the first man said. "With her husband here? Seriously?" "That's why I got my best camera, dude," the second man said. "Talk about an exclusive." "You got that right," the first man said. "Every paper in the country will be after those pics." John wasn't stupid, so he kept an eye on the 2 men after they left. There were always rumors about some politician getting involved in an adulterous affair, and he normally ignored them. But April's attitude lately had him wondering if she was getting some on the side. He got the drinks and headed back to the main event, but his wife was nowhere to be found. He went to their table and set the drinks down, then began looking around. She was scheduled to speak tonight, so he figured she was somewhere behind the curtains getting herself composed and prepared for her speech. What he found instead signaled the end of his marriage. He walked backstage and was behind a curtain when he heard his wife talking with another man. He couldn't quite make out what they were saying, so he peeked around the curtain. There she was, her arms around Doug Simpson, the local party boss. Her face lit up as she kissed him, full on the lips. He kissed her back, his hands lifting the back of her dress. She hadn't looked at John like that for months, if not longer. "God, baby, I'm so hot for you," he said. "I wish I didn't have to give a speech tonight," she said in response. "I'd love to rip these clothes off and have your brains out right here." "What about your husband? Isn't he here tonight?" he asked. "Yeah, but he's a clueless wimp. He's so spineless he'd probably just excuse himself and walk away." "Well, you'd better get ready for your speech." Maybe afterward you can tell him that you have stuff to do for your campaign and you'll be gone for a while. Then we can head out to the Marriott on the beach." "The usual location?" she asked. He nodded his head. "What can I say? I like the view." "That sounds like a good idea, lover," she said, kissing him. "See you later." John left the area as quickly as he could and went looking for the two men he had seen earlier. He spotted them about 10 feet from their table and made a beeline for them. "Excuse me, gentlemen," he said as he walked up to them. "Can we talk for just a minute?" They looked at him, confused. "Sure, man. What's up?" "Hey, wait a minute," the second man said. "I know you. You're Congresswoman Sullivan's husband, aren't you?" John nodded his head and shook the hand offered him. "Yes, I am. I'm sorry for eavesdropping on you earlier, but I heard the two of you talking at the bar." They looked at each other for a moment before addressing John. Yeah," the first man said. "I'm sorry you had to hear that." "That's okay. I'm just curious. Were you two talking about my wife, the Congresswoman?" The second man looked down sheepishly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan, but yeah." "Please call me John, and there's no need to apologize. Are you two with the media?" "Well, not exactly. We're with an independent political blog, and we've been covering your wife for a while now. We were hoping to come up with a scoop that might put us up on Drudge." "I see. Are you with the opposition?" John asked. "Not really. We just follow the leads where they take us. We don't care which party, really. In our view, everyone in Washington is crooked." John smiled. He liked these two young men, and he admired their attitude. "Understood. Look, can we talk? Maybe after the fundraiser, off the record?" "Sure, Mr. John," the first man said. "But won't your wife be with you?" "From what I heard, I rather doubt it," John said. He looked at the dais and saw his wife standing there, scanning the room, probably looking for him. "I think they're going to be starting soon, so let's meet afterward, okay?" "You got it, John," the first man said. John turned and walked back to his table, his mind in turmoil. How could April do this to him, to them, after all these years? Was he not man enough for her? Did he not provide for her sufficiently? Or was she just simply drunk on power? He needed answers, and he needed them fast. April stormed up to him after he got to their table, which was situated right in front of the raised platform where the speakers would be delivering their messages. "Where the hell were you? My drink is warm now. You need to get me another one." He looked at her and took a sip from his beer. She looked at the beer with disgust. "Couldn't you just for once drink something besides a beer, for God's sake?" "Forget you," he said quietly, causing her eyes to open wide. He had never talked back to her like this before. "I got your goddamn drink. It's not my fault you let it get warm, and I happen to like beer. Get one of your flunkies to fetch you a cold drink if you want one, or better yet, get it your own damn self. I'm not paid to be your butler." "Well, I never," she began. "That's not what I hear," John said. She turned on him. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked, clearly agitated. John snickered. "You're so goddamn smart you figure it out," he replied. "I don't know what's gotten into you, John Sullivan, but you'd better drop the attitude right now. This evening's very important to me, and it's important to the party." "Why, yes, ma'am, whatever you say," John said, adopting a fake accent he knew got under her skin. She huffed and turned away, heading to a point just behind the platform. As she left, Doug walked up to him with a smirk on his face. He held out his hand, but John refused to shake it. "Hey, Doug, good to see you here supporting your wife," he said. John felt like punching him in the teeth. "What do you want, Simpson? Besides my money, that is," John asked. "Listen, I just wanted to let you know that your wife and I will be in a strategy meeting with some of the party apparatchiks after the fundraiser for a while. It might last a while, but I promise I'll get her home safe and sound," he said. "Make sure you use a protection," John said. "What?" Doug asked, shocked. He wondered how much John really knew about April's extramarital activities. He shook his head before continuing. I'd better go get things started, he said as he left. John took his seat and the fundraiser began. Doug took his place behind the podium and told a few lame jokes before introducing April, the keynote speaker. The audience stood and applauded loudly. John slowly stood up and gave a slow golf clap. April nodded her head, smiling at the audience, taking in the adoration. Soon, everyone settled down, and she began her speech, talking about how much the opposition sucks and promised to get things done in Washington. Hell, he thought. She had been there for at least 10 years. Couldn't she have gotten some of this stuff done by then? Or was she too busy being intimate with everyone on the Hill? He tuned her out and focused on his wedding ring. He thought about how things used to be when April's political career was just starting. She served on the city council for 2 terms before being elected to the state legislature. After 2 two-year terms in the state house, she ran for Congress, hoping to replace some sleazeball who got caught with his intern. She won and had been re-elected 4 times, repeating the same tired old mantra. At first, he fully supported her, even though he didn't agree with all of her political positions. She was young, smart, attractive, easy on the eyes, and easy to approach. Everyone liked her, and so did the cameras. Even some in the opposition party liked her. She became a favorite for certain talk shows and had a way of eviscerating her opponent with a joke and a smile. She continued to work and campaign through 2 pregnancies, and the young children helped boost her ratings even further. He was so proud of her back then. She always seemed to have plenty of time for the family and her job, and he had no problem helping whenever he could. But that was then. This is now. As he looked at her speak, he could almost see horns growing out of her head. Finally, the speech was over, and the audience clapped like trained seals. He put his hands together a couple of times for appearance's sake. "Was there something wrong with my speech?" April asked when she came to the table. Apparently, she wasn't too happy with her husband's lack of enthusiasm. He shrugged his shoulders. "Nah, it's just that I've heard the same thing hundreds of times over the last decade. I thought you might have come up with something new considering all the time you spend with Simpson and your campaign people." "What are you implying?" she asked. "Nothing. You asked me a question and I gave you an answer." She sighed heavily. Just as she was about to say something else, Doug came to their table. "Wasn't that a barnstormer of a speech?" he asked, his mouth fixed in a stupid grin. "John wasn't too impressed," April said. Doug looked at him, confused. "Oh, why?" he asked. "Well, like I told my wife, I figured that with all the time you 2 spend together, you could have come up with something new by now." "Hey, you go with what works, know what I mean?" Doug asked with a sideways smile. "So, can we count on you for a donation?" "Don't worry, you'll get something." Like a poke in the eye, he thought. "Good," Doug said, stretching out his hand. John ignored it and looked at his wife. "Listen, John," April said, "I'm going to be busy for a while, so why don't you go home and I'll see you later, okay?" "Yeah, Doug told me. Just clean up before you get home, okay?" April reached out to give her husband a kiss on the cheek, but he turned and left before she could make contact. She watched him head to another table in the back of the room where he met with 2 young men. She turned to Doug, nervous. "What's up with him?" Doug asked. She shook her head. "I don't know. He's never acted like this before. Do you think he knows?" "No way. He's an old fuddy-duddy. I don't think he has a clue." "I'm not so sure," she said. "We need to be extra careful. The last thing we need is a scandal." Doug smirked as he looked at April. "Don't worry. He doesn't know anything, and he won't know anything." "If you say so, but I know my husband, and there's something eating him up." "Just give him some pleasure in the morning and he'll be good for another 6 months," Doug said. "Come on, let's get out of here." April said nothing but watched as her husband shook hands and spoke with the 2 men. Who were those guys, she wondered, and why would John be so eager to speak with them? She turned and walked away with Doug, concerned that her marriage could be at stake. John, meanwhile, had met the two young men who introduced themselves as Robert Wilson and Jack Colton. "So," John began, "what can you tell me?" "Well, John, we've heard a number of rumors on Capitol Hill about a certain attractive female member of the House engaging in adulterous activity. We're investigating that now." "Would that female member be my wife?" John asked. "Yes, and we have reason to believe that Doug Simpson is one of her regular guys." "One? How many has she been involved with?" Jake asked. "According to the rumor, at least 5, Robert said. And we've heard that she's traded sexual favors for endorsements and contributions in the past. Those are just rumors, you know. We were hoping to catch her and Doug in the act here and get photographic proof." "You expected them to do something here? In a public setting?" John asked, shocked. "Yes, we did. Doug is a bit on the kinky side. The more public it is, the better he likes it." "Damn. Well, I did catch them in an embrace, and I overheard them planning a rendezvous at the Marriott Hotel on the beach. From what I heard, it's their usual location." "The Marriott, huh?" Jack said. He looked at his partner. "Well, we'd better get going then." He looked back at John. "Can we get your contact information?" he asked John. John nodded his head and gave them a business card with his personal cell phone number. "Talk to me before you publish anything," John said. "Okay. I guess we owe you that much. We'll be in touch." "I look forward to hearing from you," John said. "Tomorrow?" Jack looked at Robert and then nodded his head. "Tomorrow," Jack said. "Thanks," John said before shaking their hands. He left the event and headed home, his heart heavy. As soon as he got home, he pulled up their finances and made a few notes. He knew that divorce always favored the woman, so he made some moves to protect his assets. He also looked at his company's finances and made some decisions. He also searched the internet to find out what he could about Doug Simpson and the rumors of his wife's extramarital affairs. From what he could glean, Doug was separated from his wife and 2 children for, guess what? Cheating. Figures, John thought. As for the rumors, only a few sites had posted anything, but all of those articles were based on unnamed sources, which threw up red flags. Jack and Robert were right. They needed hard evidence before going public. He spent some time thinking about what he would do if April really was cheating on him. There was no way he could tolerate that, not after remaining faithful to April all these years. Divorce was a given, but he would need more to reclaim his manhood. In normal times, a divorce based on charges of adultery would be devastating to a politician. But these days, who knew? He grabbed a beer and headed upstairs to the master bedroom. He had a lot to consider before he took action, but he decided he wouldn't move on the basis of a rumor. And he wasn't quite ready to dump his wife just yet. At least not without giving her an opportunity to come clean and make things right. Unable to sleep, he pulled out his tablet and started watching a movie. He really wasn't paying much attention to it and finally dozed off. He woke up, startled, when April came in the room. He looked at the clock. 3 a.m. And she was just now getting home. Her clothes were disheveled and her hair was messed up. As he watched, she undressed and went into the bathroom, closing and locking the door. He heard her start the shower and got out of bed. He checked her clothes. Sure enough, the smell of Doug's cologne was all over them. Her purse was on the dresser, so he checked it out. Finding her personal cell phone, he pulled it out and opened up her text messages. They had never locked their phones before, so he had no problems getting in. What he read devastated him. Message after message between the two of them indicated they had been engaged in a long-running affair. He closed out her phone and put it back in her purse. One of the last 2 messages from Doug complimented her tight body. The very last message asked, "So are you going to humiliate your husband?" Her response, "Of course, like always." He felt like throwing up. Instead, he forwarded the texts to his personal email account and put her phone back in her purse. Soon, April finished her shower and walked back into the bedroom, wearing a short bathrobe. God, she's beautiful, he thought. Too bad she's just another cheating woman. He decided to keep it together as much as possible until he got ironclad photographic proof, but admitted to himself that it wouldn't be easy. "You're still awake?" she asked as she crawled into her side of the bed. "I thought you'd be asleep by now." "Yeah, I had a lot on my mind," he said in a neutral tone. "Did you and Doug get anything accomplished?" "Yeah, we got quite a bit accomplished. So, have you decided how much you're going to donate to the party this year?" "I have, and I've made a couple of executive decisions," he replied. "Oh? Like what?" "Well, for starters, I've decided not to donate anything to the party," he said. April sat up suddenly, shocked. "What? Why not?" "For starters, the party is flush with funds. Besides, all they'll do is use it to promote candidates who mess around on their spouses and screw their constituents," he said, looking straight at April. Her face turned white at that remark. "So I've decided to use it to start up a daycare at the company for employees with children." "What gave you the idea to do that?" she asked. "You did, actually. I've heard you say time and again that companies should do more for their employees. So that's what I'm doing. It'll make them happy and more productive, which will make me more happy." "Oh, what else?" she asked. "I've taken a hard look at our finances. We're actually doing better than I thought. My retirement fund is way up this year, and we've managed to sock away quite a bit in savings. So I decided to give myself a 30% pay cut." "What? You decided that without consulting me?" "First of all, it was your idea. How many times have I heard you say on the campaign trail that CEOs need to give up some of what they make to benefit their employees? I'm just following your lead. I could use that 30% to bump up some salaries or get better health care for the employees. Secondly, you're not an officer of the company, so you really have no say in the matter. What? Are you afraid to lead by example?" "Of course not, John. It's just that we usually discuss things like this first," she answered. "What can I say? These are unusual times. Besides, the house is paid for, and your fancy new car is paid for. The kids' education is all paid for. You get a pretty good salary from your job as a member of Congress. Hell, if you retired right now, you'd get a hefty retirement package. We could both retire right now and spend the rest of our lives traveling around the world. Come on, what do you say? Let's do it while we're still young enough to really enjoy it. Let's just put all of this crap behind us and go play together. Maybe take a romantic cruise and see all the things we've only talked about." "But the campaign," April began. "Screw the campaign. We've put our marriage on the back burner long enough. Announce your retirement tomorrow morning. Tell the world you want to spend time with family. Politicians do it all the time. I can promote George into my place and have him up and going in a week's time. Let's do it, babe. Just you and me against the world." "Why don't you just join me in Washington?" April asked. "There's plenty of room at the apartment. I'd love to have you there with me." "And do what? Be your house husband or your butler? Watch you fly off to God knows where with God knows who doing God knows what? Besides, you know I hate Washington. The place is a swamp and it's hot as hell in the summer, and the rents there are outrageous." "John, what's gotten into you?" April asked. "I feel like our marriage is dying, and I've heard some rumors that really bother me." "So that's it? You heard rumors? From who? Those two kids at the fundraiser tonight?" "Right now they're just rumors. They don't have any definitive proof yet. Don't you think it's best to get in front of that and cut it off at the pass?" "John, I don't know what you've heard, but trust me, all of those rumors are just fake news, put out by partisan hacks working for the opposition. You know how this game is played. Do you honestly think I'd cheat on you?" "Lately, I don't think I know you at all. And yeah, I am concerned that you've been unfaithful to me," John said. April looked shocked. "John, I know I've been a jerk lately, and I'm sorry for that. I love you and only you. Don't you believe me?" she asked. "Frankly, I don't know what to believe. The way you've been treating me these last few months makes me wonder." "Well, I do love you, John. Come on, let me show you," she added, rubbing his pants. John pulled away from her, shaking his head. "Not tonight. I'm really not in the mood." Disappointed, she laid back down. John turned off his light and lay down. I have to leave in the morning. We've been called back to Washington, she said. Oh? For what? John asked. Haven't you heard the news? Judy Chastain was arrested and we need to elect a new speaker. He had heard something about it on the news, but hadn't paid a whole lot of attention. From what he heard, the First Lady had also been arrested, something to do with an alleged coup attempt on the new president. So how long are you going to be gone this time? He asked. I don't know. Maybe a week, 10 days, tops. I leave early in the morning. Whatever, John said, turning his back to her. He really didn't know what to believe, but he refused to have intimacy with her after she had been with Doug. Can I at least have a kiss? She asked. John turned back over and kissed her on the cheek before laying back down. Good night, he said. April turned on her side, tears falling down her cheek. Neither one of them got much sleep that night, but John finally dozed off and was sound asleep when April got up the next day. She showered and dressed, wondering how much her husband knew. Grabbing her bags, she took one last look at John as he lay on his side of the bed asleep. Her eyes were watery, and she gave him a kiss before she left. I'm sorry. I really do love you. After she left, John got up, showered, shaved, and dressed. He went downstairs and made himself a pot of coffee. April left a note for him on the kitchen counter next to the pot. My dearest John, please believe that I love you more than life itself. I'll call you when I get to the D.C. apartment. I miss you already. Your loving wife, April. She ended the note with a series of X's and O's. He smiled at the hypocrisy. How could she say she loves me while she's out with Doug and God knows who else? He asked himself. He had a lot to do that day, so he headed out to the office. He spoke to Jenny, his receptionist, when he got there, telling her to screen his calls as he would be in and out a lot during the day. His phone buzzed, letting him know he had a call. He looked at the screen and saw it was from Jack. Hello, he said, answering the call. Mr. Sullivan, this is Jack Colton. We spoke last night at the fundraiser, the voice at the other end said. Yes, I remember. What do you have? Well, we got some pretty incriminating video for you if you want it. We also know what room they normally use. Turns out old Doug uses the same room for all of his affairs. How many women was this guy screwing? John asked himself. All right, send me everything you have, John said. Okay, it's coming over now. Is your wife heading back to Washington? He asked. Yes, she is, John said. Okay, we'll be going back as well. We'll hold this for now, but we can't sit on it forever, Jack said. I understand. Just work with me for a week or so, okay? I have something in mind. Will do. We'll keep you in the loop. Thanks, John said, ending the call. An email hit his account and he opened it, noticing the video included as an attachment. He opened it up and his heart sank as he watched his wife enter a room with Doug, her arm around his waist. The video then changed, showing the two having intimacy. It looked as though the video was taken through a window in a room located at an adjacent hotel. The quality wasn't that great, but it was enough that he could recognize April on her back, with Doug. He saw enough and decided to call his attorney, Mark Green. Hey, buddy, what's up? Mark asked when he answered the phone. I need to see you this morning if possible, John said. Of course. What's going on? I really don't want to say over the phone, John said. All right, I'm clear until about 10. You want to come over now? Sure, I'll be right over. Good. I'll have fresh coffee for you when you get here. John ended the call and drove to Mark's office. He was ushered in as soon as he arrived. Mark stood up from behind his desk and the two men shook hands. He handed John a cup of coffee and the two men sat back down. So, what brings you here so early in the morning? You want to set up a rematch at the golf course? No, this isn't a social visit. I need your professional services. Oh? What's going on? You still do family law, right? John asked. Yeah, I do. Are you looking to get a divorce? Unfortunately, John said. He pulled out his phone and played the video he received that morning. Mark's eyes widened as he watched the two cheaters. "I'm so sorry, John," he said when the video ended. "I never would have expected this from April. I've been told she may be involved with as many as 5 men, and there's rumors that she's traded sexual favors for endorsements and campaign contributions." "Do you have any proof of that?" Mark asked. John shook his head. "No. Like I said, it's all rumor at this point." "I'm curious. How did you get this video?" "I got it from a couple of bloggers I met at the party fundraiser last night. They've been working on this as a story for their site, and they're the ones who told me about the rumors." "I see. Look, as damning as this is, and it is damning, it's not going to make much difference. This is a no-fault state, so it really doesn't matter. Maybe we can use it in case she decides to fight the divorce. But even then, I'm not sure this can be used legally." "So what do I do?" John asked. "Are you absolutely certain this is the path you want to take? There's no way you can get past this?" "There's no way I can see past this. April knows how I feel about infidelity." "What are your expectations?" Mark asked. "I want a fair settlement. This is probably going to hurt her chances for re-election, but she can always retire. Tell you what, let me put my investigators on this, and let's see what they come up with. I'll go ahead and start the paperwork. Where is April now? Is she still at home?" "No. She left for Washington this morning. She's supposedly staying at her apartment here." Of course, I heard Congress had been called back from their recess for an emergency session. They're supposed to choose a new Speaker of the House, and I heard the First Lady has been arrested as well. Any idea when April will be back?" "She said a week or so, 10 days at most," John said. Mark nodded his head. "All right, that gives us some time to work. Let me get my folks on this and I'll start the ball rolling. Do me a favor and don't do anything stupid, got it?" "I got it. Nothing stupid. When can you have her served?" "Maybe after she gets back. Will that work?" "Yeah. That'll give me time to flesh out what I'm going to do." John thanked his friend and wrote a check for the retainer. He headed back to the office, his mind occupied with thoughts of revenge. Shortly after returning to his office, he got a call from April. "Hi, babe. I made it," she said. "Good. How was the flight?" he asked. "It was okay. It's crazy here, so I don't know when I'll be able to call." "Call when you can," he replied. "I will. Listen, I was thinking about what you said last night. Maybe after the election we can take a long vacation. What do you think?" "That's not until November," he asked. "Well, maybe we can go somewhere warm. You've always wanted to see Australia." "I'll think about it," he said. "Good. Remember, I love you." "Yeah, me too." He ended the call and wondered what or who she would be doing that night. It didn't take long for him to find out. 2 days later, he got a call from Mark, who said his investigators had hit pay dirt. John went to visit his friend. When he arrived, there was another man in a suit with a folder. He handed John the folder. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan. You may want to wait until you get home to look at those." He handed John a flash drive. "There's a video on that in case you want to see for yourself." John's heart fell as he looked at the pictures, which showed April with 5 different men. One photo showed her with 2 men, an older man from behind. John recognized the setting. It was her apartment. "Who are these men?" John asked. "The older man is Senator Jenkins and the other man is his chief of staff," the investigator said. John knew that Senator Jenkins was a powerful member of the Senate Banking Committee. "We've also identified the other men as well. Mark has the information." "What about the claims of intimacy for contributions or endorsements?" John asked. "Well, we were never able to conclusively prove that, however. We did see something pass between your wife and a powerful union boss an hour after this photo was taken," the investigator said, pointing to another picture of April with a large, balding man. John had seen the man on television and recognized him as a union representative. He shook his head, tears falling down his cheeks. "Damn you, April," he said quietly. Our men will continue the surveillance until she leaves if you want. We'll forward that to your attorney. Those photos are yours. Do with them what you wish. Mark has the originals. We've also included a report of her activities. Do what you need to do, John said. He looked at Mark. Go after the others as well. They need to pay for this. Mark considered his friend for a few seconds before speaking. It's your dime. But speaking as your friend, maybe you need some time to cool off first. I know this is a shock to you. Go for the jugular. We can always negotiate afterward. Okay, Mark said. But remember, don't do anything stupid. I don't want to see you hurt any more than you already are. The investigator spoke up next. Mr. Sullivan, I want you to think about this for a moment. We know what's been going on. We have dates, times, and places where it all took place. What we don't have is motivation. For all we know, she's being blackmailed into this. My man on the scene noted a spot in one of the videos where Senator Jenkins said something to indicate he had something on her. If we can get the answer to that, maybe it will explain all of her activity. John shook his head. Maybe, but that's no excuse. She could have come to me at any time and I would have moved heaven and earth to help her through it. But she didn't. John understood what the investigator was trying to do, but he also knew that his marriage was dead, and that thought gave him the seed of an idea. He thanked them both for their work and prepared to leave. Be careful, John, Mark said. I'll keep you updated on my progress. Thanks, John said as he walked out the door. He drove straight home, where he immersed himself in a bottle of Jack Daniels, hoping that would numb him enough to look at all the photos and read the entire report. Sitting in his darkened home office, he buried his head in his hands as hot, bitter tears streamed down his face. As he sobbed, he considered the idea that came to him earlier. The more he thought about it, the better it sounded. Perhaps, he thought, that would wake April up. It wasn't the burn the cheating woman type of revenge he had read about on some of those internet sites. But, he thought, it would be a fitting end to a now-dead marriage. He also knew that he had a lot to do in order to pull it off, and not a whole lot of time to make it happen. Pulling out a sheet of paper, he made a checklist and began making calls. John was quite busy over the next few days putting everything together. Some of what he needed cost a bit more than he initially realized, but at that point, he didn't care. Mark smiled when John told him what he had in mind. That's actually a good idea. I wish I'd have thought of that, Mark said. John reached out to Jack and Robert and told them what he had in mind. They loved the idea and promised to be present when it happened. April never called during that time, which suited John just fine. 6 days after April left, John called his wife to see when she would be coming home. "Oh, hi," April said when she answered the phone. John noticed she sounded as though she was out of breath. "Hi. I was just wondering when you were coming home." "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to be stuck here for a couple more days. We have some hearings going on and things are just crazy right now." John knew this was a lie as he had learned from watching CS-PAN that the House had selected a new speaker and had already adjourned for the rest of the recess. "I thought the House had already adjourned," he said. "Well, technically, but some of us have to stay behind a bit longer. Is that okay?" she asked. "Do I have a choice? You do know our 25th anniversary is coming up in just a few days. Are you going to miss that as well?" "No, I should be there," she said. "Well then, how about if I come to Washington and bring you back?" he asked. "No, don't do that. I'm really busy right now." Right, he thought. "Can you at least give me a day or two notice so I can get reservations set up?" he asked. "Sure, I'll call you." "When?" he asked. "I'll call in 2 days, promise," she said. "Really?" he asked. "Yes, of course. I hope so because you missed our anniversary last year. This is our silver anniversary and I have things planned out." "Like what?" she asked. "Well, I thought about having a special get-together. Wouldn't you like your constituents to see you celebrating your anniversary?" "Oh, that's a good idea." Okay, I'll call you tomorrow at the latest, promise. John smiled. Of course, she'd like to have everyone see her celebrating her anniversary. This was just too easy. I look forward to hearing from you, he said. Okay, sweetie. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Love you. Me too, he said, looking at the most recent set of photos the investigators had sent back. Bye. True to her word, April called the next day to give John her itinerary. I'll be flying out the day after tomorrow. I should be at the airport by 10 a.m. and I'll drive straight home. Good. I can't wait to see you. I've missed you. I've missed you too. I gotta go now. Love you. See you in a couple of days. See you then. Bye, John said, ending the call. He wondered if April even noticed he didn't say that he loved her. April had noticed, and she noticed the day before. She noticed the changes in her husband, but thought it was just from the stress of his business. Oh, well, she thought. She would put on a good face when she got home to him. She had been planning for some time to put an end to what had been going on for a little more than a year, and this seemed like as good a time as any. She only hoped it wasn't too late. What's wrong, sweet thing? The man with her asked after she ended the call. I think my husband is suspicious. I'm going to have to make it up to him. Don't worry about him. Come on back to bed and I'll make you forget all about him. She shook her head. No, I can't. I've got to stop doing this. He's going to find out, and there'll be hell to pay. You really want to risk that? You know the senator still has a nice collection of photos and videos, and he'll follow through with his threat. Senator Jenkins can go flip himself as far as I'm concerned, she said. He's been holding those photos over my head for the last 13 months. After what just happened with Speaker Chastain and Barbara Pierce, I don't think he'd really be stupid enough to open that can of worms. Well, no one forced you to do that tease, and no one made you give Jenkins's chief of staff a lap dance. What do you think your hubby would say if he saw those pictures? The man asked. I was drunk and drugged when that happened, she said. You know that, and I've been paying for that stupid mistake ever since. Yeah, I know it. Hell, who do you think drugged you? She looked at him with disgust. I never would have done any of that if you hadn't drugged me, you bastard. You and your buddies have had your way with me ever since, but that all ends now. Get out. Now, why would I want to do that? You know as well as I do that Jenkins has your career in his hands. You buck him, and you can forget getting re-elected. I'd rather be out of office than be your toy one more day, she said. My marriage means something to me, even if it doesn't mean anything to you. Now get out. The man reluctantly got out of the bed and got dressed. Jenkins is gonna be mad, April, he said. I think you'd better get your head out of your back if you know what's good for you. And your husband. Out! April said, throwing a shoe at him. The man dodged the shoe and left the apartment, shaking his head. Neither of them knew the confrontation had been caught on video. April sat on the bed, crying. Yes, all of this started when she had been drugged at a party thrown by the senator just a little more than a year ago. After the party, Senator Jenkins approached her with an envelope full of pictures. She was shocked and horrified at what she had done. Worse yet, she didn't remember much of it. He made it clear that she was to do whatever, and whomever, he chose for the foreseeable future. Otherwise, he told her, those pictures and videos would be made public, and she would be destroyed. He also warned her not to say anything to John. So she tried her best to live the two lives Jenkins wanted her to have, but that didn't work out as she thought. At first, she was reluctant, but as time went on, it became easier to cheat on her husband. As time went on, she began to see her husband the same way Jenkins and the others did, as a wimpy, inconsequential pencil pusher. The fact that he had built his business up by himself and was a major contributor to the local party meant nothing. So she ended up being a toy for Jenkins and a number of others in his orbit. That also included Doug, who kept an eye on her back home and reported to Jenkins, and it included several of Jenkins' high-power donors. April went about her business and flew home 2 days later, having heard nothing from the powerful senator who had been holding those damn photos over her head for over a year. She hoped and prayed her husband would understand and not divorce her. If need be, she would resign and retire with John. In the meantime, John had been busy as well, finalizing his plans and getting things set up so his second-in-command could do the job he had been doing all these years. He held a company-wide meeting and informed the employees that George would be taking over the day-to-day operations for an extended period of time. They hated to see him go, but they all understood. The day April was set to fly in, John was at home, double-checking everything. The announcement had gone into that morning's paper as planned, and several local media vans were parked outside the house. Before long, the house was full of reporters, politicos, and family members, including their children. All of them were confused and wondered what John had in mind. They knew John and April's 25th anniversary was coming up and thought this was his way of celebrating it. But everything seemed off. Who marks 25 years of marriage with a memorial service? John explained what was going on to his children in private and told them of his plans. They were hurt and angry with their mother and hoped their parents could work through their problems. After listening to their father, they agreed to maintain contact with their mother, as she would need their support. After April's flight landed, she collected her bags and made her way to the parking garage. She secured her luggage and called John to let him know she would be home soon. "Hi, sweetie. I just got in and I'll be home soon. I can't wait to see you." "I'll see you when you get here," he said. "Thanks for letting me know." He ended the call, leaving April stunned and confused. He didn't sound happy to hear from her at all. "What's going on?" she asked herself. She left the garage and headed to their large home, located on a 10-acre plot on the outskirts of town. When she got there, she saw the driveway was full of cars, including a news van from a local television station. Maybe, she thought, John had surprised her with an anniversary celebration. She made her way into the garage and entered the house. A large man in a tuxedo met her at the door. John went all out, she thought. The man looked at her and told her to follow him. She did, and noticed that all the photos in the house were adorned with black ribbons. He led her to the large patio out back, which had been set up with a number of chairs, many of which were already occupied. She saw Doug sitting in a back row, looking very nervous. The front area had a small table set up a few feet in front of what looked like a portable curtain. Something was behind the curtain, but she couldn't tell what it was. A news camera was set up in the back of the area, and several reporters were taking notes. She also saw the two bloggers John spoke to at the fundraiser. She didn't have a good feeling about this at all. As the man led her to the front row, she saw the looks of those already seated. They didn't look very happy. What kind of an anniversary celebration was this, she wondered. The man ushered her to a seat next to her children. She smiled and reached out to hug them, but they pulled back, visibly angry. "What's wrong?" she asked them. "As if you don't know, Mom," their son Mike told her. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. "Oh, please, Mom," their daughter Julie said. "Knock off the innocent act for once, will ya?" April started to respond, but saw her husband step onto the patio. She started to get up, but he motioned for her to stay seated and walked to the front of the group. Standing between the curtain and the table, he addressed the group. "I want to thank you all for coming here on such short notice," he said. "As you know, the Congresswoman and I were set to celebrate our 25th anniversary this week. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen." April gasped as he said this. "My God," she thought, "he knows." John continued. "I've loved my wife exclusively for years. She supported me when I started my business, and she was always there for me. When she first ran for city council, I supported her as well. I helped in every way I could, walking precincts and working phone banks. I was her most ardent supporter. As you know, she served 2 terms on the council and then ran for the state legislature. After 2 terms there, she went to Congress and has been there ever since. She's done a lot for our community, and I'm proud of her achievements." He stopped and took a drink of water. "It was hard, but we managed to keep the home fires burning. We raised 2 wonderful children, and I had hoped to spend the rest of my life with her. But something happened in the last year. something no husband should ever have to witness. So instead of celebrating 25 years of marriage, I'm marking the death of our marriage." April gasped, as did others in the audience. A man walked up to April and handed her a manila envelope. "April Sullivan, you've been served." Tears fell down her face as she accepted the envelope. "Your rings, please," he added. April tearfully took her rings off and handed them to him. The man walked to the front and gave them to John. John put the rings in a small box, then took his own ring off and placed it inside a similar box. He looked at the audience. When a loved one dies, it's normal to hold a memorial service. So, I decided to mark the death of our marriage with a similar service. Yes, our marriage is now dead, but it didn't die of natural causes. It was murdered, in cold blood. And my soon-to-be ex-wife is an accomplice in that murder, along with several others, he added, looking at Doug. The implication of John's statement hung in the air, and the audience followed John's gaze to the shocked man in the back row. As everyone watched, the server approached him. "Douglas Simpson, you have been served." He handed Doug another manila folder. Shocked, Doug looked at April. He didn't think John would actually take action, but he was more concerned about his political future. "All of those involved have been named in the divorce filing, which is a matter of public record. And yes, they will face legal action as well." John picked up a piece of paper which everyone recognized as a copy of his marriage certificate. He held it over a burning candle until it caught fire and placed the burning paper inside a ceramic pot. When the fire died down, he placed a cover over the ashes. He motioned to two men standing off to one side. They pushed the portable curtain to one side, revealing an open coffin. April was visibly shaking by now and saw what was inside the coffin. John had placed her Vera Wang wedding dress, which cost over $2,100 brand new, along with the tuxedo he wore at their wedding, inside the coffin. Their wedding album, along with their framed wedding photo, was inside, sitting on top of the garments. Her entire bridal collection, including the veil she wore and the bride and groom glasses, were also inside the coffin. John placed the rings inside the box and set the ceramic urn containing the ashes of their wedding certificate on top, securing it so it wouldn't fall over. He motioned to two men, who closed the coffin and secured the lid. April nearly collapsed as she watched the events unfold in front of her. This wasn't supposed to happen, she thought. She was going to confess to her husband and work it out with him. Hot tears poured down her face. A young reporter raised his hand as the coffin's lid was locked down. "Mr. Sullivan," he said. John looked at him and motioned for him to continue. "This is the 21st century. Things have changed. Isn't there some way you can put your wife's actions behind you and move forward?" John considered him for a moment before answering. "Are you married?" John asked him. The reporter, who looked to be in his early 20s, shook his head. "No, sir, I'm not," he said. John nodded his head. "I see. Do you have a girlfriend?" The young man nodded his head. "Yes, I do," he said. "Do you love her? Are you planning to marry her?" "Yes, and I'd like to marry her," the reporter said. "I tell you what, young man, you marry her, love her exclusively for 25 years, raise 2 children with her, care for her when she's sick, hold her hand and comfort her when she's down, support her, provide for her, and do everything in your power to help her live her dream. Then when she rips your heart out, you come talk to me. By then, you'll have earned that right. Deal?" The young man nodded his head and sat back in his chair. "What will you do now?" another reporter asked. "I had thought about taking my wife on a cruise around the world when we both retired. Those plans have been bumped up a bit." The reporter made a note and sat back. "And now, if you will all accompany me, please," he said to the group as a whole. A group of 6 men took their places around the coffin, which had been placed on a wheeled cart, and followed John to the back part of the property. April, accompanied by her children, nearly collapsed when she saw the 6-foot hole in the ground next to her beloved garden. A large pile of dirt sat next to the hole, and a bobcat stood by, ready to fill the hole. The coffin was wheeled next to the hole, and the men used ropes to lower the box into the ground. Once the coffin was inside the hole, John dropped a black rose and a handful of dirt on top of the box. "Ashes to ashes, dust to dust," he quietly said. Standing to one side, he motioned to the bobcat operator, who filled the hole with dirt. It was then that April saw the headstone, which read, "Here lies the marriage of John and April Sullivan." "No!" April wailed, falling on the headstone and wrapping her arms around it. Inconsolable, she sobbed as she beat the stone with her small fists. She didn't care about the news cameras or the reporters taking notes of her reaction. All she wanted was her marriage and her life back. John quietly motioned for everyone to leave, which they did. He hugged his children and quietly got into his truck, having already packed everything he would need. He took one last look at the house and drove away, a tear sliding down his face. April remained draped over the headstone, crying uncontrollably, long after everyone but her children had left. They stayed behind as John had requested to look after their mother. She remained there for the entire night, soaking the ground with her tears. Surely, she thought, this was just a cruel joke, and her husband would be back to exhume the mementos of their wedding. She never thought he had it in him to do this. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.